Hello. So in this video, I was going to talk some about Sony's cell numbers. I just did a video a little bit on Nintendo and some of their cell numbers from their consoles. I could have gotten into game cell numbers, but I didn't so much on that one. Not going to too much on this one, a little bit though. But starting first, PlayStation 4, 115 million consoles sold now as of the end of 2020. I actually thought it would be slightly more. Thought it would be like 117, but close enough. But yeah, 115 million sold for PlayStation 4, which puts it now currently at number 4 all time too when it comes to consoles sold. Only a little bit behind the Game Boy / Game Boy Color. And you can make a case that the Game Boy and then the Game Boy Color that was like a bigger impact than just having your normal console and then like a Slim for the time. But yeah, PlayStation 4 is at 115. Game Boy / Game Boy Color 118.69 million. So right now, PlayStation 4 is a little less than 4 million behind Game Boy Color for all-time sales. So it should pass that by the end of March, sometime between the end of March and meaning the end of quarter 1, and sometime between end of quarter 2, which would be June. So sometime between March and June, it should be able to pass that, depending on just how well PlayStation 4 sales are this year. Being that PlayStation 4 is pretty far into its lifetime, PlayStation 5 out and whatnot, I would say it's probably going to be closer to June than it would be to March to get the 4 million. But either way, pretty impressive stuff. That will get it to third all time. And then the question just remains, can it catch the Nintendo DS and the PlayStation 2, which were pretty close to each other at 155 and 154. Yeah, I don't know right now when you look at it. I don't know if PlayStation 4 has another 39 million or so to 40 million or so to get to those consoles. It'll be interesting to see if it can. I don't know though, because that's still a pretty good amount to do at this point, especially now that new consoles are out and everything. But at the same time, one thing that could help PlayStation 4 sales, I feel like, is the fact that some games like Miles Morales, the fact that God of War, I believe, actually got confirmed recently. I think could be wrong. You'll have to double check this. Don't take my word for it 100%. But I believe God of War was confirmed to also be on PlayStation 4 as well, the new one. That it's not going to be a PS5 exclusive. Like I said, Miles Morales, I know, is definitely on both PS4 and PS5. And Horizon Forbidden West, which is also supposed to be 2021, is also going to be on PS4 and PS5. So I feel like because of like Miles Morales and Horizon Forbidden West being on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, combined with the fact that PlayStation 5 is still kind of hard to get right now and may stay that way for this year because of COVID and such, that because of that, more people might get a PS4 and wait for the PS5 just so they can play those games. I feel like because of that, that could perhaps keep a little more life in the PlayStation 4 and its sales for the rest of this year, and that could maybe also help it get closer and closer to those top 2 spots all time in sales, but we'll see. It's crazy too with the PlayStation 4 that the Pro has been out since 2016, so a little over 4 years now because it was late 2016, and it hasn't had one price cut, not one. It's still $400, just like when it came out. I thought for sure by now, especially with new consoles being out, that it would have been cut down to $300 or something, and I think it would have if it wasn't for the fact that PlayStation 4 sales have been so darn high without price cuts that really no point. And even the original PS4, talking about a little over 7 years now, has only had 2 price cuts. I think got a 50 and then another 50, I think, but it's went down 100. Even then, you would think after 7 years that PS4 would be less than that it would be like 200 by now rather than 3. But again, I think it's because of the sales and compared to the Xbox. But then, yeah, the other thing is Miles Morales. So Miles Morales, a lot of people have talked about how it's a DLC expansion, but it's not technically DLC. It's just a shorter spin-off game. Think Uncharted Lost Legacy. Enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, it is a shorter game. But it was also cheaper than your typical game. It was $50 instead of what is now $70 for your typical first-party Sony game. So it kind of be the equivalent of a game being $40 last gen, if you will. So it was $20 cheaper than what you would normally pay. It would be nice to see a few DLCs for Miles Morales, even if it was just like a 1-2 hour little story or something, and maybe a few new suits or something. I would like that, but I don't know if that will happen, especially because nothing's been announced yet, and the game's been out for several months. But still, nonetheless, enjoyable game. But yeah, its sales are at 4.1 million now. Spider-Man 2018 game, 2018. Almost forgot the year that it came out there. It came out September 2018 on PS4. It has sold more. It's the best selling PS4 exclusive, and I believe it's the highest selling Sony exclusive of all time. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it is at a little over 20 million. So it's hard to compare the 4.1 that Miles has done so far to that, because obviously Miles hasn't been out nearly as long. And I also feel like a lot of people, even though it's available on PS4, I feel like a lot of people are probably waiting to get a PS5 to play it, because they probably want to experience the best version possible of that game. And so the fact that PS4 or PS5 is still hard to get is probably hurting its sales a little bit. But even so, and the reason I bring that up is because Spider-Man 2018, I think, did around what that kind of sell numbers in like a week or something, where Miles Morales has done it in a couple of months. But 4.1 million nonetheless in a few months is still pretty good numbers. And if it's done that in a few months, and a lot of people are, still waiting to play it on PS5, I don't know, like I said, if it'll reach the 2018 Spider-Man game with the 20 million or whatever, but I would still think it would easily reach, say, 10 million, which is still pretty darn good. So I know some people were disappointed in sell numbers, but I still don't really see that as an issue. And it'll be interesting to see, do we get a tease? Because I feel like we could get a tease, even if it's late 2021, late this year. I feel like we could get a tease perhaps of Spider-Man 2. Before Miles Morales was announced and everything, I kind of felt like we would get a sequel in late 2021, as that would be about 3 years, and Insomniac seems to be pretty darn quick making games. But because of Miles Morales, I'm kind of feeling like now we're going to be looking more at like a late 2022 game, as that would be 4 years. And if that happens, you're talking about 2 years between Spider-Man and then Miles Morales, and then another 2 years between Miles Morales and the sequel. So I think that would make a lot of sense. 2 year gap between like each game, basically, and 4 year gap overall between the original and the true sequel. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. But I think we could definitely see some sort of teaser late this year, even if it's a late 2022 game, because that would be around a year. And I don't think a year, especially with the way that we get trailers for some games where we get them announced way ahead of time, I don't think a year is too much to ask for at least a teaser. I could see something like Sony releasing a trailer for it where you see Spider-Man in the black symbiote suit for a few seconds or something like that. That would be a good teaser, I think, especially because they've kind of hinted at Venom and the symbiote and whatnot in the sequel. But I'm going to end this video here. Just wanting your thoughts on PlayStation 4 sales and on Miles Morales. And have you played Miles Morales? Do you enjoy it? I beat it twice. Might play it again at some point down the road, but kind of playing some other things right now. But just wanting your thoughts on PlayStation 4 sales and Miles Morales. As always, thanks for tuning in.